the big talk about health and longevity is strength
Yeah.
and hypertrophy, right? Like how much muscle you have, how strong you are. I don't know, to my knowledge, that there's anything that actually measures muscle quality directly. You can be adequately muscled for your stature, but not necessarily has healthy muscle. So this adds another variable to a health assessment for particularly aging individuals. And I think the implications are very wide in that, you can look at somebody who's never trained before. You can measure their muscle quality. And then let's say after her 6 months training protocol, measure it again to see how that has changed. I think that a lot of people, because of like what we have been talking about with the fitness trackers these days, with the Aura rings and what have you, it's on people's minds, even individuals who are not necessarily engaged in exercise or nutrition right now, but they're becoming aware that it's important and more accessible to be able to track these sorts of things.
Lawrence Snell here, and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for growing your HIT business and fueling your passion for high intensity training. This is episode 474. Today's guest is Matt Mombourquette. Matt graduated from Dalhousie University with a degree in kinesiology. He's worked as a kinesiologist in a long-term care facility, as a certified HIT Uni personal trainer, and has since coached thousands of personal training sessions in his now 17-year career. It's a long time. Too young for 17 years, surely. He quickly became the team lead business partner, and in 2014 became a co-founder of OneUp Fitness. Moving forward in 2020, he became the sole owner of OneUp Fitness. We're going to talk about that journey soon, which is now 2 locations in Halifax and Bedford, Nova Scotia, Canada. OneUp Fitness is a personal training facility that offers a 30-minute evidence-based and personalized strength training workout. They pride themselves in delivering excellent workouts and educating their clients on the importance of building and maintaining strength and healthy muscle tissue as a means to age well and lead a healthy lifestyle. I have a feeling some of my audience feel the same way. Matt lives with his wife and 2 cats in Hammonds Plains, Nova Scotia, and is a passionate nature enthusiast, spending most of his time on his lakeside property, paddling, swimming, and hiking. Sounds like he has a great life. Matt, great to be with you.
Great to be here, Lawrence.
Awesome. All right. So going full screen so we get better quality there on the video. And thanks for doing this, Matt. It's obviously we've known each other for years now, and it's great to finally get you on the podcast. I'm not sure why it took this long. It's completely my own fault, and you're too humble to reach out. So even though you have a very, very successful HIT business, so there you go. And I thought I'd just kind of start things off by having a bit of fun talking about our how we met. So for those that don't know, Matt and I actually originally met at the Resistance Exercise Conference back in 2018, I believe. And I was there with my fiance, Ashling, who's still my fiance because we just don't ever seem to get actually married. We just seem to accumulate things that cost money. So we postpone a wedding, basically, i.e. kids. Anyway, I digress. So we met there and we obviously just got on really well, didn't we? And we like everyone there, you're passionate about learning, but the main reason I think, or a lot of people say they enjoy going to rec, which unfortunately is something that is on pause for a while, is to connect with others, like-minded people in high intensity training, and have that support and collegiality and that kind of thing. And that's certainly what we found. I think I'll spend a majority of time with you, Owen Dockham, and Blair, and we just had a great time, and among others.
We did.
And at the time, you and I were talking a lot about nutrition, and you were jealous that we were able to get like grass-fed butter or something like that, right? Kerrygold, right? And
That's right.
And I remember saying to you, I think I was definitely drunk, by the way, and I said, I said, Matt, I'm going to ship you over some butter, and it's going to be amazing. And you were like, oh my god, that'd be so awesome. And then I remember saying to Ash, like on the way back, I was like, did I make that promise to Matt? I think that's going to be really hard to do. I don't even know how you're going to do that. I'm getting stressed out just thinking on how I can fulfill that for him. And then, I made it even worse by saying to you, I'm going to get that to you, I'm working on it. And then I never did. And I just felt awful. And you obviously
had... It's been dry for like the past 8 years or whatever it's been. So it's still waiting on that, Lawrence.
It's still there. It's sitting there on the tabletop accumulating green mold. So yeah, I know you probably think, Lawrence, stop being so silly, but I actually took that to heart. I felt really bad. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I genuinely thought it like soured our relationship. So I apologize, but hey, I've apologized so many times now. I'm probably just digging a hole for myself. So I'm going to stop there. But obviously we reconnected more recently, and it's great to just again touch base with you and learn more about what it is you got going on, because I actually don't think we talked shop all that much in the States when we met. I think it was more about just training and nutrition and stuff like that, like how to get shredded.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think we got pretty deep pretty quick, and we were talking about some real personal stuff,
Yeah.
as related to things like mental health and stuff like that, which is again a testament to when you have a community like Rec and you bring all of us together. It's really beautiful. Like you really connect with people so quickly and you go deep so quickly because you feel so comfortable with your tribe, right? That's what that is, I guess.
Absolutely.
So that's
Yeah.
super cool. So anyway, let's turn this over to you. And I'm just excited to learn about the story behind OneUp Fitness. So walk us through, like, from the question I always like to ask people is like, what was the moment you started learning about hits, right? Because a lot of us come from more traditional fitness backgrounds, and there's some event or moment where you learn about hit, and then it kind of takes you on this new trajectory, and the rest is history. So, what was that for you?
Yeah, I was kind of fresh out of university, just got my university degree, and as you said in my bio, I started working at a long-term care facility, kind of as a kinesiologist. But had always wanted to be a personal trainer. I always wanted to be a coach at some level, and there wasn't a whole lot of options at the time in Nova Scotia. Mostly working at a big box gym, kind of as a you're sort of self-employed and that sort of thing. And then I was actually, interestingly enough, speaking with my financial advisor. She said, I started training at this facility called Super Slow. And they do this really strange kind of a slow motion protocol. It's really, really tough, but it only takes half an hour kind of thing. And I'm kind of like, okay, sure. Yeah, I'll go talk to this guy. And so I did. And the original founder was a physiotherapist, Nick Matheson. And we talked for hours, and he basically took me through a workout. It really rung my bell. And I was on the verge of puking, as I'm sure a lot of people can attest the first couple of times they do a HIIT workout when you're not used to that. And I was just intrigued. I was absolutely just flabbergasted by it. And I can kind of tell you the rest of the story a little bit later on if you want, but
No,
that's really where it all started.
tell me more. So, what happened next?
Yeah. So I signed on as a trainer, and I was seeing, I don't know, like 5 clients a week at the time.
Oh, hang on. So you were so enamored by the experience that you were like, I have to work for you. Like it
Yeah,
was that.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a great position at the long term care facility. I was,
Mhm.
in the union. I had benefits. I had a good wage, all that kind of stuff, and I basically just dropped it to work on commission for this guy who I thought at first he's kind of crazy. But it's also what intrigued me. And I started
What was
learning
his
the
name again?
process.
Sorry. What was his name?
Nick Matheson.
How do you pronounce the last name? Madison, is that, or
Matheson, like math.
Matheson? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think you mentioned him on email, but otherwise hadn't been not familiar with Nick. Great. All right. Well, fair play
Yeah.
to Nick. Yeah. He was the
Yeah.
catalyst.
He
Yeah.
was the catalyst. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I owe a lot to him. And actually, I could probably talk another hour just about him. I'm still very good friends with him. And he's since become a mentor and a business coach, and he means a lot to me. So I owe Nick a lot. So if he happens to watch or listen to this, then he knows anyway, so I don't have to tell him. Um, Regardless, this was now 2007 when I had started working. So there were 2 years into this Super Slow franchise, and I think a lot of your listeners would likely recall Ken Hutchins' business, Super Slow, that started in Florida. And he had worked alongside Arthur Jones, developing the MedX equipment and what have you. Nick came across this, interestingly enough, is looking for a solution to help his physiotherapy patients effectively train safely. There was a lot of therapeutic benefits to this, and still is, obviously.
Mhm.
So he was intrigued, and he kind of bought in. As I'm sure some people know, the franchise no longer exists anymore. Nick quickly exited the franchise as well, because there was a lot of limitations to it in terms of what we could do, how we could talk about the business and what have you. And we wanted to have our own integrative approach to exercise as it pertains to therapy and what have you. So he branded what is now called One-to-One Wellness Center. So that's where actually it all kind of started. We had physiotherapists on staff, massage therapists, and then we had a team of personal trainers. So I worked for a few years. I built up my books. Got to a point when I was full time. I was training somewhere between 60 and 70 clients per week, which was really good for me. And I was very happy, but I was also kind of thinking of like, what's next and where do we go from here? As I think a lot of trainers can attest. So we decided to become business partners. I would lead the team, bring on new trainers and train them, help develop the programming. And I did a little bit of nutrition coaching and kind of developed my own little program with that. We became quite successful, very busy. And we decided to branch off a fitness facility, a personal training facility from One-to-One Wellness Center, which is what became OneUp Fitness. So this is now 2014 when we founded OneUp Fitness. So from there, we decided we wanted to expand and open up another location. And in 2016, we started looking at opening up in Bedford, which is about a half an hour's drive away from our main location in Halifax in Nova Scotia. And actually, this is a kind of an interesting side story too, with regards to our equipment. So we have MedX equipment in our Halifax location, and we had put in an order to outfit our new Bedford location with MedX equipment. And this was in November, I guess, of 2015. And it was due to arrive in April of 2016 so that we could launch in May or June of that year. And I'll make a long story shorter. It didn't kind of fell through. The MedX order fell through. What had happened is they ended up selling our order to another company with the intention that they were going to rebuild our line in time for us to launch. And that just didn't happen. So thankfully we got our money back from that.
Oh, those rascals.
It was,
so you went direct to MedX for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, needless to say, we were kind of in a bind. We had 2 months out, had no equipment, actually save for, we had the ARX Omni. That was the only piece in our studio. So at least we had that one piece, but certainly can't run a facility, at least not the way we wanted to, on that one piece. And I remember having coffee with Nick one day, and he was kind of just, he was not happy. He was kind of breaking down a little bit. I just thought, what can we do? Where can we go? And I heard about this company, Prime Equipment, which is formerly Rogers, down in Pittsburgh. And I told him about it. And I said, I think this kit looks pretty good. They have the camming mechanism on it. It's really well built. They've got a long history, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, maybe we'll just give them a call and see if they can do something for us really quickly. And he said, better yet, why don't you fly down and meet them? And that's what I did. So within the matter of a week, I flew down to Pittsburgh. I met with the sales crew. They brought me into the facility. They showed me where they manufacture all the equipment. They let me try it out in a gym. They had a local YMCA where they had outfitted a bunch of equipment. And I was impressed. I thought it was great. It was different from MedX, but I still thought, we could use slow motion protocol with that. And the best part about it is they could have us in our studio in a 2-week turnaround. So shook their hands, flew back home 2 weeks later. They delivered it all. And I think a couple of weeks after that, we opened our second studio. So it was a bit of a whirlwind. But we were kind of lucky. And I'm still, we're here in Bedford now 7 years this June. And we're still using the Prime equipment. It's awesome. And that's kind of that story.
So cool. Yeah. Thank you. That was so interesting. Sorry, were you going to say something extra there?
No, that's
cool. So just to clarify a couple things, so you like Prime. Do you still think MedX is better though?
I think that there's some pieces that I prefer on both sides. And interestingly enough, our clients feel the same. And, I think it's the same as with anything new, first couple of times you try it, you're like, it's not MedX. It's not the same thing. But once you start getting into it and you feel the nuances of it, there's definitely some pieces that I would actually choose over MedX. Yeah.
Which pieces? Can you reveal that?
Sure. They have a great pullover machine. I love their pullover.
Really?
Yeah, it just feels fantastic. Very, very smooth. And it's, the way they build it is actually very similar to MedX. So, like I said, with regards to the cam,
Mhm.
um, they're all steel guide rods, very, very smooth, and Kevlar belts, so it's all belt drives, which just makes a world of a difference versus like, steel cables or what have you. I would say probably the leg extension machine. I actually really prefer in the Prime.
These are big claims because the MedX is like strong in
Yeah.
both of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's not to take
Yeah.
away from the MedX
Like if you
equipment at
said the
all.
seated
Like,
row, I'd be like, yeah, given. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, yeah. We actually don't have the row in the Prime. That's one of the pieces that I didn't get. I opted for the pullover instead, but
Okay.
maybe that's a
Yeah.
future purchase. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're not the first. I've come across, I only come up one other facility that's invested in Prime fully. And
Yeah.
that's Vital Exercise down in the UK, actually.
Okay.
Forgive me, Ted. I forget your exact address, which is not helpful. But it's Ted Harrison, who's been on the show before. Vital Exercise. God, I can't remember the location. I know kind of point it on a map, I would know it, but I don't know the name. So I'll link it up anyway, Ted. I'll do the minimum there. But yeah, they invested in Prime. It wasn't inexpensive. It
No,
looks beautiful, and
it
he's very
does.
impressed with it and the cams.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
very happy with it. I would say I don't know how much experience Ted has utilizing MedX, so maybe I'm being unfair, and he has lots. But I know he had a lot of Nautilus in his previous, and sometimes I'm like, well, if he used more MedX, or would he have a difference of opinion? But I could be wrong about that. I haven't tried it myself, but that's, I mean, Ted would be, very strong opinions on like what is effective. And if he's happy with it too, then, and you're saying you're happy with it, and that's saying something. So that's very interesting to me
Yeah.
as an
Yeah.
option.
And
Yeah.
I think, equipment is mostly in how you use it too. It's how you instruct, it's how you figure out the different nuances, with the equipment
Mm.
setup, all that kind of stuff too. So it does take some practice, but I think every piece, has its pros and cons.
Okay. Okay. And you said you found it to be what, equivalent in price or more expensive than MedX, or where does it?
I think at the time, I mean, I haven't looked at prices, certainly since post pandemic, but I think at the time it was pretty comparable.
Okay, cool. Interesting. All right. So let's get into the business a little bit more and do a little bit of a profile, shall we? So explain to us, what's the model currently at OneUp Fitness? Like, is it, yeah, one-on-one training? Do you do any like small groups, semi-private, any other services?
Yeah, we're still exclusively one-on-one training.
Mhm.
We really hang our hat on that because it just gives us such a big niche in Nova Scotia. Oftentimes I feel like everybody's trying to do everything for everyone, and it just muddies the market quite a bit, as I'm sure you've heard from a lot of other people on the pod as well. So I think a lot of stuff has changed in terms of the way that in terms of the way that we operate and train with regards to specifics on the floor. We went from super slow, which is an incredibly strict model, 10 up, 10 down, and, all the nuance with that. So we've since loosened back quite a bit. Intensity is still a very important part of it. I would say that, we're more so than we used to. We're really strongly encouraging people to train at least twice per week. We actually even have some clients who train 3 times per week. And it really just depends on the individual. But we're giving a lot more freedom to what people feel is giving them the most rather than what we think is best for them. Still offering our, educated advice, on, what is best for recovery and those sorts of things, but still a full body workout. We're still trying to push people as close to or at failure as they can. That being said, we have a demographic who are generally a little older, and by older I mean over 50. Generally between 50 and 75 years is the majority of our clientele. And we work with a lot of people. I think because of our reputation over the years, working alongside a physio clinic, we work with a lot of people who have a lot of orthopedic issues, health conditions, and those sorts of things. So we have to take all that into consideration. So So it's an initial assessment, very beginning, doing our consultation, making sure we do our due diligence to, find out what is the best prescription for them, and then evolving that over time through client feedback, I think is essential, and really, I think is the basis of an excellent personal trainer, as well as keeping a good level of empathy with who you're working with, and make sure that you're delivering what's important for them, at the end of the day. So, but to answer your question, I guess a little further, we also offer an in-body scan. We adopted that technology a couple of years ago. We've been really happy with that. And the cool thing, not that I'm giving a plug to InBody, we're not affiliated with them in any way, but one of the benefits of having that system is you're actually plugged into their database. So people from all around the world search for in-body scans and find your location. And interestingly enough, as a result, over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of people just book online to come in to do an in-body scan. That already have clients of ours. So that was
so it creates like a discoverability, like a marketplace. That's great. And then they become training clients, right?
Yeah, oftentimes we can bring them in for a free consultation, and sometimes we'll sign up. So yeah, it's just been, and that was something I was never expecting. It was more something we were investing in for our clients. But yeah, that's been a nice benefit too. So I guess the other thing that I'm really excited about, and this is something that I did want to share, but maybe this is a good time to bring it up, is we've since partnered with a new company that has been founded here in Halifax, actually at my alma mater at Dalhousie University. And the company name is Molecular. And I can send you the link to that later, Lawrence, if you want to share it. But basically what they're doing is the CEO has patented biomarkers that will actually dictate the quality of muscle health in individuals through a urine sample. And this will give us a lab report, which we'll be able to feed back to our clients, which will give practical implications based on those biomarkers as to whether they're eating enough protein, whether they're getting enough rest, whether they're resistance training enough or too much. And that can have some really big implications, particularly for our demographic in terms of health. So we're incredibly excited about working with them this coming fall.
Wow. What would other people be doing as an alternative to that? Because there are, I'm not sure if they're really competitor products, but there are obviously a lot of things going on in that space, measuring various biomarkers. So what stands out about this over some of the other options you've seen? I don't know that space all that well, so you probably know.
I think the big talk, which is an important talk, and I think it needs to continue, is about health and longevity, is strength and hypertrophy, right? Like how much muscle you have, how strong you are. I don't know, to my knowledge, that there's anything that actually measures muscle quality directly. And what I understand is that you can be adequately muscled for your stature, but not necessarily has healthy muscle. So this adds another variable to, a health assessment for particularly aging individuals. And I think the implications are very wide in that, you can look at somebody who's never trained before. You can measure their muscle quality, and then let's say after her 6 months training protocol, measure it again to see how that has changed.
Super cool. How do you patent biomarkers? That doesn't seem fair. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. All right.
That's above my scope.
That's the world we live in, is it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. She's put a lot of work into it, so she should be able to hold on to that finding herself, right?
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think what strikes me as being quite interesting about this is I think there's this massive, obviously quantified self movement that has picked up pace over time. You've got, everyone's wearing the Aura Ring or a Fitbit. Yeah. My missus wears a Whoop, I think it is, and she's always telling me how many steps she's doing. I say, I don't care. Like, are you strength training? Yes or no? No, I did that. I'm more helpful than that and encouraging. But I did a podcast a while ago with James Steele, Dr. James Steele, some years ago now, and it was really insightful because he kind of made me aware, well, actually, a lot of the data is noise. A lot of it isn't useful. And we have to be careful, like, what we take seriously and how we modify our behavior as a result of that.
Mm,
You know, do you wake up, have a bad sleep score, and then go, oh, today's a write off? Like today's a waste
right.
of time because I've got no sleep. And is that then a self fulfilling prophecy? So I think it's a bit of a problematic space where I had that conversation with James and I had this kind of like inkling that, oh, I want to be careful about this anyway. And then he kind of made me even more aware of it. And I was like, and I never, as a result of that, I decided not to quantify anything aside from maybe my workouts.
Mm,
And I've always been a fan of the more simple heuristics for health. Like, you
mhm,
know, do you wake up with, oh, sorry, this is going to sound really crude, but do you wake up with an erection? Do you
sure,
feel good? Do you know these things? But for males, obviously, also
sure.
so useful for women. Um, but I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I do understand that a lot of this
Mm,
stuff is valuable. From a
mhm,
medical perspective, I would certainly do blood tests and track some aspects there.
yeah,
Um, and so where I'm going with this, I find it interesting that these biomarkers do sound incredibly useful. They actually sound like meaningful metrics, which can give us some really good data on our clients. That isn't necessarily just focused on body composition, because one of the
yeah,
problems that our colleagues have is they have a, bod pod or in body, they're
right.
measuring body fat as well. The client's not losing body fat because they don't do a nutrition intervention, which is fine. It's up to you. And frankly, most of us probably shouldn't, in my opinion. And then the client gets obviously put off by the fact that their body fat hasn't really changed or got worse or whatever. And so sometimes it can kind of work against us. And I'm curious how you think about that actually, because we can talk about that in a second as it relates to your in body.
Mm,
Whereas this is purely focused on muscle health. So this is something we
yeah,
can directly impact, right? So
yeah,
that's much more useful. It's very much congruent with our practice, right? So that's
yeah.
super cool. Yeah. So make that intro, Matt, after this. That sounds very, very good for our space and applicable to my show. So awesome. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think it's another piece of the puzzle, and like the more information and the more data we have, the better the scope of the picture, and we think about it from like a general population, like people who just want to get fit, maybe build a bit of muscle, look good naked, all of those sorts of things. But what about the individual who's struggling with some type of a health condition? We have a client who has muscular dystrophy, who comes in a wheelchair and trains on equipment, actually lifts himself out of the machines. It would be very interesting to watch, the changes over the years and to see if this is actually having some impact on a molecular level as well. And I think it's all pieces of the puzzle, as I said. So like, even with an in-body scan or a bod pod or what have you, and I'm sure you've had people tell you this before, you're probably well aware of this yourself, but it's not about the absolute values, it's about the change over time.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really an important indicator of, if I'm doing X, Y, and Z and my muscle score is still really low, what piece am I missing and who do I need to speak with or what changes do I need to make to kind of turn that around? And it's not about being perfect or absolutist because there's certainly the extremists who spend too much time. Look, I'm wearing a Fitbit too, but like how much time is
How
looking
dare
at the
you?
data of this? Don't judge me. um, but it's uh, but it's informative, I think, for some people, and at least keeps you on track. So as long as you're not too obsessed with the numbers,
Mhm.
that can be helpful for some individuals. I have a lot of clients too who don't give a crap about any of that data, and that's cool too because they feel good. Like you said earlier, like you wake up, you feel good. Maybe you got an erection, and you're waking up with that every morning. You're probably headed in the right track. But I
You're
would
getting out
also
in the
be,
sun. Yeah.
yeah, getting out in the sun, you maybe do your blood work once a year, which I think is important, particularly
Mhm.
for people over 40, making sure that those markers are in the right place, then, you're
Yeah.
covering your bases. So,
I agree. Yeah, great points. Yeah, just going back to the in body, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. So there is a concern again. I mentioned it just now about you're not just measuring lean mass, you're measuring fat mass.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
just correct me if I'm wrong. At OneUp Fitness, you don't focus on nutrition, or you do have a nutrition service. Remind me on that. No.
No, we don't do any formal coaching, but we do offer very general, recommendations. I think the biggest thing is just talking
Hmm.
about protein, educating people
Yeah,
on protein intake.
that's the
Yeah.
hack, isn't it? That's like the 80/20
Uh,
right there. Yeah.
that's it. You're right.
Yeah. And so what's your thoughts on, because there's been some critics of Embody in our space to say, do you really want to show the client or some clients that nothing's changing to their fat mass, or it's, it's not really improving significantly, even though it is obviously really important, but just not the variable that we're focused on changing, most of us.
Mm.
So how do you think about that? Do you think that's a problem? I mean, clearly
Yeah.
you're using it, so it doesn't seem to be a massive problem for you. And how do you manage that? Yeah.
I think it's a great opportunity to educate people. I think it's the more conversations we can have around health and looking at different perspectives, and as long as you're creating the context for the clients in the right way, right? Like first of all, this is not 100% accurate. This is not a DEXA scan, and even a DEXA scan is not 100% accurate, right? As far as I
What is it,
understand.
within 5%? Is it sort of something like that? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So give
Yeah.
or take. But if you're doing this every couple of months and you're seeing a change for the better or for the worse, I think it's still pretty indicative. And usually the
Mm.
clients will be able to say like, oh yeah, I haven't been so great with, eating my protein, or instead of doing 2 workouts per week, they've been doing one because it's the summertime now and maybe they're, not as active and what have you. So, but again, it opens up the conversation around, this is generally where you should be with regards to a healthy skeletal muscle mass. This is generally where you should be with regards to body fat. And really, inevitably, it's up to the client as to whether or not they want to invest their efforts into making a change. But I think it's also our responsibility to have those conversations. It's a catalyst for a conversation, right, around health. If you're a 50-year-old female and you're 40% body fat, that there's a lot of health implications with that. And, I think we can make some small changes, as we just talked about earlier, like even just in how much protein you're eating on a daily basis. Most people have they're not even close. They're not even in the ballpark as to how much protein they should be consuming. And I think there's still a stigma there around that eating too much protein
Yeah.
is actually dangerous, right? It's causes kidney dysfunction. And that's all since been debunked in the scientific literature, as far as I know. So,
Joe,
um,
you remind me of a conversation I had with an oncologist and a calf. It's a friend of mine, and he would have read Body by Science and be, obviously that's more exercise, not so much nutrition. But he would bang on about the mTOR pathway
mhm,
and how protein helps drive cancer growth that way. And I would just be sitting there like, firstly, you're an oncologist, you're a lot smarter than me, and I can't really argue this. But then but in my mind, I knew that wasn't quite right because, as you know, Doug McGuff's done some great videos on this about how mTOR
yeah,
is really context dependent.
yeah,
And I will defer to him and his video on that. We'll link it in the show notes because it does a great job of explaining the role of mTOR in this context.
mhm,
But yeah, I use that example because uh, in spite of all the great work from people like Doug and people like Stuart Phillips, who constantly
mhm,
talks about how protein should not be feared, and
yeah.
debunks all the myths around it being dangerous for kidneys, etc. Some people still have an issue with it. So it's one of those kind of like beliefs that's entrenched in our culture for so long.
Definitely.
Like a lot
Yeah.
of the nutritional stuff, like fat, right? Fat's another one. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Another one I would point to too, Lawrence, and I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Gabrielle Lyon,
Yeah,
but
she's great. Yeah,
she's gained a lot of popularity over the past few years, and I really love her work. And I think she does a great job of expelling a lot of the dangers around overconsuming
yeah.
protein, and actually pointing to more the direction of, if you're not eating enough protein, that's likely more hazardous in the long term. And she's
Yeah.
doing a great in women's space as well, really bringing forth some information to women,
Yeah.
because historically that it's been a very male centric, kind of focus with regards to research on health and fitness. So,
Yeah, great point. She's great. And while we're on the subject of promoting people, I have never spoken of this woman and I feel like I should. Dr. Zoe Harco. She's a British lady and she's a super rigorous scientist. And she'll like rip apart all of the existing science on different aspects of nutrition. She's incredible. She's done some
yeah.
great stuff on fiber and fat. So I recently subscribed to her like annual, it's like a membership thing. And you get access to all of her like, exclusive stuff, which is very cool. So yeah, go check out Dr. Zoe Harcombe, Harcombe.
Okay.
And she's like, she makes a point, like, the only way she makes money is by obviously people subscribing to her services. So there's no conflict of interest. And all she cares about is, just really rigorous science and finding, the truth,
Love it.
basically, which is refreshing. And she's also
Yeah.
very funny and entertaining. So it makes it far easier to consume her.
Oh,
She's done some
absolutely.
great, if you search Zoe Harcombe, fat or fiber on YouTube, she's done some amazing presentations. Um, Anyway, so moving on. So getting back to kind of the business, obviously you gave us a nice overview there of the model, sessions, equipment, etc. I'd definitely be remiss if I didn't ask you about growth. Remind me, how many sessions do you guys do a week on average at both your locations?
On average, we're somewhere between 100 and 150 per location. Right now, where we're in summertime, it's kind of a bit of a dip for us. A lot of people go to, vacation, go to their cottages and what have you. So a lot of our clients will train twice per week, drop down to once because they're golfing or playing tennis, or pickleball has become the more popular thing, I think, these days. You're smiling, so you know what that is. That's good. But yeah, we still have some room to grow, and I'm excited about some projects that are coming up. Coordinating with Myanmar is something that I had actually. It was kind of serendipitous because I really am looking forward to bringing on a new fitness assessment protocol for our clients as well. This is still in the works, but it's going to be kind of a gamut of different metrics like blood pressure and grip strength and probably some type of a lifestyle questionnaire. And this is, not something that is necessarily required for all of our clients, but something that can be offered as an additional service. And I'm not sure how we're going to package it yet, but I think that a lot of people, because of like what we have been talking about with the fitness trackers these days, with the Aura rings and what have you, it's on people's minds, even individuals who are not necessarily engaged in exercise or nutrition right now, but they're becoming aware that it's important and more accessible to be able to track these sorts of things. So I'm hoping that that will have an impact and a draw as well for some new clientele. So yeah,
Awesome.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, very, very cool. And in terms of growth, I was thinking, the two biggest problems in our space that always come up are lead acquisition, no surprise there, generating leads, getting more clients, right? And hiring great trainers and keeping great trainers. Those are like the two things.
Yes.
In terms of from your perspective, for those listening to this who might be a startup, they've got maybe 10, 20 sessions a week. All those just thinking about getting started. Have you got any tips on like what you guys have found to be the most effective ways to generate leads for your business?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is really just service delivery. And, you've heard this from people before too, if you have 2 clients a week, it's even just a few clients a week, do everything you can to make that the best experience for them. Word of mouth is still, even in this technological age, I still think it's the best way to get new clients because it's also kind of filters the individuals who are coming into your studio as well. If you know what I mean, like it self-selects the type of people that you want to work with, and asking for testimonials, having a good website, I think is really important because people are finding you on Google. They want to be able to drop into your website, know exactly what you do, where you are. The information should be very clear. We're really transparent with our website as well. We put our pricing on there and everything. Like we want it to be very, very clear who we are and what we do. I've heard Luke Carlson talk about this a lot in your podcast too, about the differentiators, right? Knowing how you're different from the market, knowing how you're different from other personal training studios and really driving that home. Outside of that, sorry, go ahead, Lawrence.
No. I keep going.
I think outside of that, we've been working with a really great marketing company over the past couple of years who, personally, I think, and we've talked about this too. We talked about this a lot at Rec actually, about how I really am not personally engaged in social media. We have it as almost like a necessity for business because that's where people live and find out about new products and businesses and what have you. So to be able to create content, which I still really love, shooting videos, writing blogs, still to this day, and then shuttle that off to a marketing company who can pretty it up and post it and do all that magic on social media, it's well worth the investment. And as a matter of fact, couple of weeks ago, I'm a part of an entrepreneur group where we meet on a quarterly basis. And we had a guest speaker come in, and he was a marketing and social media expert. And he was talking about how something he said to me was really profound. He said, like, if a company, like imagine a law firm invested in a billboard, this is thousands and thousands of dollars to promote their law firm. Why would you then hire a 17-year-old to do your social media? It should be a big investment in your business. I think that having a professional do that and have regularity with it and consistency with it, certainly for us has been well worth, and we've seen the return on investment in that as well. So we're getting a lot more leads than we have historically through, let's say, Facebook and Google ads, a lot more hits to our website and our contact page and what have you as a result of that. So I would recommend investing in having a pro team do your social media content.
Just a few thoughts on that. So firstly, are you comfortable revealing your agency?
I can. It's fine. I don't know that they'd be taking on. It's actually interesting because they are a agency that promotes dental offices. So they're specific for dental offices, but we've been working with them for, I think, 10 years or something like that now, or maybe even longer, because I think Nick is the one who actually, started them up back in the day. So I don't know that they would take on fitness businesses, but the name of the company is called HQ. And they're based out in Vancouver, Canada. And they have a great team. We have a monthly call. They share our metrics from our Google ads. They share our metrics from our hits on our website. They actually break down our ROI on a monthly basis as well. So this is how much you spent. This is how much money you gave us. This is how much you're paying in ads. These are how many leads that you brought in, and these are how many conversions that you had as a result of that as well. So yeah, it's just really fantastic and essential in our business right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I will link those guys up. HQ, isn't it? I'll link those up in the show notes if anyone wants to contact them and ask them, because there's a couple podcasts now actually where I've spoken to a HIT business, and they're pleased with an individual and agency they work with, and I always want to promote that because I hear so much of the opposite. I know so many business owners in our space that have wasted money on agencies that haven't worked. There's a lot of bad agencies out there, right? And I think sometimes it's a bit of both. It's a bit where, they haven't maybe given the agency enough time, or maybe worked with the agency well, but then, you can argue, well, that's the agency's responsibility as well to an extent. So no, thank you for that. And I'll link that up in the show notes, episode 474 on the blog, guys, highintensitybusiness.com. Just some very other quick thoughts as well. In Alex Hormozzi's book, $100 Million Leads, there's a whole, and you can all afford to buy a book. There's a whole chapter on how to work with agencies, and he's got like a step-by-step, like how you qualify them in, and the idea with his businesses. And obviously he's perhaps generally talking about larger businesses, as you would actually end up learning everything you can from the agency and then actually incorporating it in-house and doing away with the agency. But I still think it'd be super useful regardless. So if you're looking at reviewing a number of agencies, buy that book and just read that bit, and it will help you walk you through how to qualify effectively. And just some other quick thoughts. Social media is interesting, right? Because it is effective. And however, in the beginning, it's not just going to start driving leads into your business. So for instance, if you're a startup, you have no budget and you're just doing social media posts, which is great, provide value, post online, absolutely. Pick a couple platforms. But the way to get leads from it straight away is to actually engage with your followers directly. So, and this is actually something I only really learned in the last 6 to 12 months properly, and had a bit of a light bulb moment. But it's like social media won't necessarily generate leads in of itself, especially in the early days. It's different when you've got big following and you're getting a lot of reach on your content. But it will build up a lot of trust and authority. So when you do reach out to people, if they're a follower, then obviously it's way warmer, right? If you DM someone on Instagram who follows you, like a prospect, way warmer. By the way, be a human. Don't just sell them straight away, right? Say, hey, it's a quick step-by-step, right? Hey, thanks for following. How's things? How's it going? Right? Thanks for following us. Really appreciate it. What stood out in our content that resonated with you? Whatever, right? And then it's like, hey, how are you getting on with your fitness journey? Or even better, if you can go and look at their profile and talk about something that's personal to them and build a personal connection, right? And then you can carry that on to like, what do you do? Oh, how you do this? How do you find time to work out? Like link it back to you or what you do. And then you can make the offer. Oh, you should come in for a free introductory workout or whatever it is, right? So I think some of us who are like in the early stages, some of this DIY DMing your followers is really, really effective. And so I know I'm digressing now, but I'm just getting excited. I just think a lot of us in the beginning are complaining about not having enough customers, and it's like, well, how much promotion are you doing every day? Are you going and DMing your followers and building relationships? No. Oh well, are you doing anything? No. Oh right. Maybe that's why you're not generating business, right? Although I do think you make the most important point, which is service and generating word of mouth and just
Yeah.
being great at the craft. And I always love the way Luke put this back in the day. He said to me, a lot of our marketing problems are operational problems. He was far more
Yeah.
articulate than that. But it's like if we can get the operation down where when a client walks into our facility or connects with us virtually, whatever our service is, and we can make that whole workout experience, not just a workout, but every part of that experience
Yes.
optimized for that, then passionate nod from Matt there. Then that's like the most important thing for driving those qualified, high quality customers in. But alongside that, especially in the beginning, we need to do more probably. And so doing some of that social media DM stuff will help you drive leads through social when you're small and you've not got much content. The other thing as well is even if you are generating leads elsewhere, say through your website or through, let's say, use a service like bark.com where you're buying credits to phone people, get leads that way. That's something I did, which worked very well. They're going to look back at your social media and your website to see if you're actually like a professional organization. You have your shit together, right? And if you don't have
Yeah.
anything in your content, you've not got like a basic presence, that's a problem. So there's quite a few reasons why you should have some social media content out there, right?
And just to interject here too, just
Yeah.
to come along with you, Lawrence, like I think, especially if you're starting out, like this is to the new trainers or maybe somebody who's thinking of starting a small business, in the personal training sector, you don't have a whole lot of clients. So you have the time to make those connections, right? So take that time, right? Make the connections as much as you can. And as I said earlier, like really try to empathize with the people who are interested in you. Because if they do question or ask you a question about like, oh, this sounds interesting. Like, what are you guys all about? What are you interested in? What are you looking for? What would be an ideal exercise experience for you? Have you ever worked with a personal trainer? Like there's so many questions that you can ask to create that engagement. And it also helps to build foundation of what you are, like how you're building your own business as well. Like who in your demographic is looking for personal trainers and how do you help shape your business to kind of fit that need or that, because I think we've talked about this a lot in the past podcasts about knowing your demographic, knowing your audience, who are you talking to? And then what is it that you're trying to serve? What are you trying to, what's the solution that you're trying to offer for their problems, right? And the best way to do that if you're starting out is to really generate those conversations and engage with people. So,
Yeah. Like that's such a good point. Yeah. You learn so much through doing, right? To your point there. Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. I'm glad we covered that because I just think that's something that everyone's always thinking about in our space and could always get some help on. So as we've got to draw towards a close here, Matt, let me just see here. Remind me, how many trainers do you have on staff? Yeah. What's your team look like for the two locations?
yeah, we have four full-time trainers right now, and I do some part-time training myself as well. So I guess you could say 4.5. And really, what I'd like to say is we're looking to grow to 6, probably 7 trainers between the two facilities, and that would be kind of our capacity, I guess, for those facilities. So within the next 5 years, that's the target. Yeah.
What's the square footage of the two locations?
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot. Let's
Roughly.
see. I'd say, I think it's around, our gym space is probably around 1,000 square feet, maybe a little less.
Oh, for both. Okay. So they're similar size. Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. So yeah, I'd love to hear, just while we've got a few more minutes here, just your thoughts on, again, hiring and finding good trainers. I am empathetic. I've been told I am an empathetic person. So I say that just to preface what I'm about to say, which is I just think a lot of us are making excuses when we say they're not out there. No one can do what I do, right? No one is a good
Mhm.
fit for my business. And so I'd love to hear you debunk that if you can. You're not going to do it now, are you?
Absolutely.
But,
Yes.
but tell me about like what kind of process you would go through to find a good trainer and then obviously keep that trainer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good question. And that's something that I think is ever evolving. I think it's something that we just have to be conscious of. And, the market changed a lot since the pandemic, as everyone can attest and empathize with. But I think it's really about personality. I think it's about finding somebody who is genuinely passionate about helping people, above and beyond anything else. If you have somebody like that, the technical aspects of training, I think, can be systematized. And you can really I'm starting to incorporate more of my trainers in training our new oncoming staff. Historically, I've done that my entire entirely myself, and it's very time consuming. And although we enjoy it, it detracts from a lot of those things that I need to do as well. So I think having a good systems protocol for onboarding, what are the basics? What do they need to know right off the bat? And then what's the long term kind of learning curves for them, to keep them engaged, to help them succeed. At OneUp Fitness, we have what we refer to as a team-based approach. So everybody learns together, everybody grows together. And we do that through a weekly team call, where we're checking in, as we have standing call every Wednesday at noon. We do quarterly trainer meetings. We just had our last meeting last week, where we actually took it back to foundations. We talked about the foundations of training techniques, how to bring in a new client, what's the process, what's the education for the first 10 to 20 sessions. And I think the more engagement we have, the more passionate we become about what we do. And, inevitably people are going to come and going to go. Oftentimes at OneUp Fitness here, we've had trainers who've stayed for a couple of years and then got accepted to, graduate school, or maybe they decide to go off and do medicine, or, these sorts of things. And I always feel that it's really about that connection, having somebody who is really empathetic, and really passionate about, again, educating people and helping them, is really important. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's just all the things I hear that I guess a lot of our colleagues are doing right. You just reinforced, a lot of those sort of guiding principles when it comes to um, developing and retaining good trainers, right? How do you guys go about? What's your recruitment strategy? Like, where do you go to hire trainers these days?
Well, we have kind of connections through the universities. So anytime we're looking for a new trainer, we'll reach out to the School of Health and Human Performance at Dow and just tell them that we have a new trainer position open up. We use Indeed still to this day. I find it still seems to be the place where a lot of people are looking for, career opportunities. LinkedIn has been another one that's been, useful for me in the past. There are a couple of dedicated colleges here that do uh, personal training certifications and what have you. So I'll reach out to the colleges, and put our ad out there as well. Word of mouth is always great too. So I'll connect with our clients and just ask if they know somebody who maybe has a child who's graduating from university and they're looking for a jump start into their career. So I'm open to it all. I haven't found a perfect solution for it, but I've been really grateful for the fact that over the I guess the past 10 years that I've been hiring in this business, that we found really good people, and have been able to hold on to them for a few years. There's I think in personal training, much like a lot of small business, that is, as you said earlier, I think one of the biggest challenges is kind of retaining good individuals as well. So that's not been lost on us.
Okay, awesome. So let me just summarize that. So local faculty relationships with local faculty and local educational institutions. Sorry, I missed one because I was trying to write something down. Through clients, right?
Yeah.
Recruiting through
Mm-hmm.
clients. Did you say local certifications? Did you clarify that one?
there are some colleges, like we have what's called the Nova Scotia Community College, where they do like a fitness or personal training kind of diploma. So I'll reach out to them as well. And Indeed, Indeed.com is something that we'll still use. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And I did the same thing actually. I was working with Optima here, which I co-founded in Galway, the studio here. I had success with building relationships with local faculty. And what was clear to me is, and I think maybe some of us miss this, which is when you're trying to hire, it's just like getting clients. It's the same thing. You're trying to make your business as attractive as possible and the opportunity as attractive as possible to the prospective trainer, right? And so how you present that and how you make it like a no-brainer and differentiate it in the marketplace is really important. And we learn a lot from like Discover Strength, as many of us do, and how we do that. And I positioned it, I remember sending this email to the faculty at a local university, and I had quite a few inbound, and one person in particular really stood out. She's very professional, left a voicemail, and she's been phenomenal. She's been a trainer with us ever since. She's phenomenal, and probably one of the best trainers in the country. She has like not just a degree in exercise science, but came with a master's in strength and conditioning as well. Doesn't come from a HIIT background, but got it. So when I said like, this is our way, she was like, I get it. I'm on board, and she still trains her own style. Like she's not like married to HIIT. And I don't think that's necessarily a massive problem, so long as the service experience to the clients is consistent, right? That's the key thing there.
Right.
And if anyone's interested, that exact template that I use in terms of the email, we have all that stuff, all those systems, all those kinds of things in our school community, which is now where we have our high intensity business community. If you want to build a 7-figure HIIT business, they're all in there. So it's literally copy and paste or just tailor it to your own brand, but it's there to use. Awesome, Matt. This has been great. I really appreciate your time.
It's been fun.
Thank you so much. I think there's so much more we could dig into, but we are out of time today. What's the best way for people to connect with you? Is it oneupfitness.ca is the best place to send people if they want to learn more about you and the business? Is that right?
Yeah, that's our website. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them too. You can reach me at my email. It's just matt@oneupfitness.ca.
Matt,
so if there's any aspiring
fitness.ca. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, if there's any aspiring trainers out there or people thinking of starting a business, I'd be happy to share, anything that would be helpful.
Yeah. Exactly. Any trainers who are listening, who live in Nova Scotia and want a job, maybe they'll be in luck.
Absolutely.
And no, that's awesome. Thank you, Matt. And just to mention, if anyone listening is interested in obviously joining our school community, please go to highintensitybusiness.com/school. That's the cool way of spelling it, SKOOL. And to get the show notes for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com. Just search episode 474. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.
Let's go.
Hey, it's Lawrence again. Before you go, I have something special for those looking to accelerate their HIIT business. Would you like to know how to generate a flood of leads for free? Download our exclusive Builder Referral Machine Playbook. It's a concise guide packed with proven strategies from Luke Carlson, CEO of Discover Strength, a fast-growing HIIT franchise. Clients in our HIIT business membership using these referral tactics have added 20 to 40 new clients, transforming their businesses dramatically. In this playbook, you'll uncover 4 dynamic referral tactics that you can implement right now to drive leads. Plus, when you download the guide, you'll gain access to invaluable resources to expand your business, like ready-to-use sales presentations, a guide for attracting top-notch trainers, a checklist for nailing your sales process, and so much more. And there's a bonus. Subscribe today to ensure you don't miss out on exclusive opportunities like live group calls with HIIT experts. Plus, you have the chance to contribute questions for our interactive Q&A blog posts and podcasts, where we directly address your queries with industry experts. These special events are scheduled periodically, and as a subscriber, you'll be the first to know when they happen. Just visit highintensitybusiness.com/ref. That's REF, short for referrals. highintensitybusiness.com/ref, or click the link available where you're watching or listening to this. Drop in your email, and you'll get instant access to all these resources today.